Chris Lee, Blake Lovell, and Max Barr of Southeastern 14. Basketball was canceled on Wednesday night as the world stopped spinning in the wake of Nick Saban's retirement. Isn't that what happened, Blake?
Listen, here's what I'll say what I told many others. The reason Nick Saban retires is so you watch more Alabama basketball. He figured he's missing some of those non-conference games and want to get to watch a little bit more. Put on the hard hat, ready to go. But I think he also wanted to watch SEC basketball. He wanted to watch the resurgence of this conference. That's just the rumors I'm hearing. But, I don't have the inside information that you and Trey Wallace and others have. So
I loved John Rothstein's tweet. Someone asked him, "Hey, John, what do you think about the Alabama coaching change?" He goes, "Nate Oates didn't get fired."
Get fired.
Tunnel vision on college football.
Yeah, somebody sent that to me. I mean, give Rothstein credit. He is always on brand. Seriously, I mean, but before we do get into basketball, what a night and what a morning. Wake up this morning and Bill Belichick is out in New England. I mean, as a footnote, Pete Carroll also out in Seattle. I mean, this is the most significant 24 hours for coaching news in the history of sports. I mean, it's just crazy.
Again, what's the common theme? They all wanted to watch more SEC basketball.
They did. And let me tell you, it's worth watching after what we've seen.
I wouldn't say Arkansas fans not going to say that, but
we'll get to them later. All right.
Anyways, our show is presented by someone.
It's presented by BetOnline, where we do talk basketball here. NFL playoffs right around the corner. NBA season in full swing. BetOnline has you covered with all the up-to-the-second odds, news, and scores. With additional odds, lines, trends, and info on both desktop and mobile, you can access the world's best wagering information anytime. Head there today to get in the action, see all the updated odds. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE. That is BLEAV. Get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. The game started in Starkville last night, where this game was almost a toss-up coming in. I think most of the computers had Tennessee about a 1-point road favorite. Mississippi State, of course, recently got Tolu Smith back. And boy, did he make a difference. It was a battle down the stretch. Guys, I thought Zakai Zeigler by himself was going to will Tennessee to a win. Vols led that one late. Smith's 3-point play late was the difference. The Bulldogs get a garbage time breakaway dunk at the buzzer to extend the margin from 3 to 5. Tolu Smith had 23 points. The aforementioned 3-point play. This is what is shocking to me, Blake. I know the last 20 years, Mississippi State has not been, certainly a top third program in the league, maybe not a top half, but it's had some good teams. It's won the conference a time or two. Going back a little further, it's been to a Final Four. I don't know if the AP put this out or the SEC Network did last night, and I'll find it. But I think that was State's first win against a top 10 AP-ranked team since 2002. I did not realize it had been that long since State beat a team of that magnitude, Blake.
Yeah, I guess so. I didn't know that either. You would have thought they would have gotten somebody along the way, but apparently not. But yeah, I mean, this was here's what I think.
Sorry, make that top 5, not top 10, but still.
Yeah, I could see top 5, top 10. Yeah. Okay. But here's what I think. All right, I think Tennessee and all other SEC teams to this point, I think they should go to Commissioner Greg Sankey and request something. I think they should request that no team have to play on the road the rest of the season.
Knew that was coming.
Because if you play you might as well just, you got to play on the road. Sorry. Like, we appreciate you showing up, but you're about to get beat. Now, of course, I say that half jokingly. We all know we were talking about what was the main theme last weekend, right? It was revenge of the away teams. Like, first slate of opening play, LSU goes and wins, Kentucky goes and wins, and other ones like that. But Not in the midweek, folks. Midweek teams at home. Max, what's their record this week at home? Midweek?
They only lose one.
No one lost, did they?
No one
Who am I
lost?
forgetting? Alabama beat South Carolina. Kentucky beat Missouri. LSU beat Vanderbilt. Auburn beat Texas A&M. Mississippi State beats Tennessee. Georgia beats Arkansas. Ole Miss beats Florida.
Yeah.
Midweek, home teams go
Swept
7-0. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, here's where we get into the weeds here. All right, did we chalk this up? Are we concerned about Tennessee, or is this just college basketball? Because as I'm gonna give Max the floor to bring up the stat about why this is such a historic loss, not just for Tennessee, but for the top 5 in college basketball. But I don't know, man. It's just a tough place to play. We all picked Tennessee. You knew we were done for when that happened. But I just, am I surprised? No. Like, this is what happens. And I think, again, Mississippi State, we said it, they're a different team with Tolu Smith. They get him back. These are the kind of games that you get him back for. Like, you get him back for games like this where you know you're playing a team that you're going to have to play well, but everyone's not going to play well. That's why you need someone like him and put him in a position to where he can give you a chance to have success. Both teams turn the ball over quite a bit here. But that's to be expected when you have 2 defensive teams like this. I mean, the way they play, you expect turnovers. And so it just came down to who was going to take advantage of that, who was going to take advantage of their opportunities. Scoring wise, it winds up being a 2-on-2 game here, right? Where it's Josh Hubbard and Tolu Smith against Dalton Connect and Zakai Zeigler. But everybody else around them struggled a little bit, didn't have their best games. I know Max probably going to bring up too the ADU situation, foul trouble, like all those kind of things factor in when you have a game like this that's on the road in conference play. And it just so happened that, Mississippi State put themselves in a better position than Tennessee did. They made the plays down the stretch and found a way to get a huge win here, because as we said, we looked at Mississippi State's schedule. We said, boy, this feels like not a must win, but like this is a very important game based on the upcoming schedule in the first half of the schedule for this team.
First off, I want to start with this game right here is why I love college basketball. This is what it's all about. Did you see Chris Jans in that locker room post game? I mean, the passion, you can tell how much it meant to the team, how hard they fought. It's just, this is what it's all about. I love this stuff. And this is coming from someone who had a small wager on Tennessee. This is what I live for. So, Blake, you mentioned the stat. John Fanta, the great John Fanta, tweeted this out last night. This is the first time in the history of the sport of college basketball that 4 of the top 5 teams have lost in a 2-day span. First time ever in history of the sport. Guys, we are witnessing the most parity in college basketball that there has ever been in the history of the sport. I'm honored to be able to talk about it. This is unreal. Like, I'm shaken with how crazy this
Max
is.
Barr, all in. Max Barr is all in. Tennessee fans, he's all in on you losing. That's what he's saying. He's all in on you losing this game.
Not exactly. I can't believe how crazy this season has been. It's only January. When you look at the game, I think both teams have stuff that they can take away as positives and negatives. You're looking at one of the best freshmen in the country here in Josh Hubbard, just not getting enough credit. Unbelievable shooter, and the way that he gets his shot off, how high he can get on his jump shot, it's impressive. And then you add 5 steals from DJ Jeffries, one of the best on-ball defenders the conference has to offer. And finally, here we go, Tolu Smith, back and better than ever. Mississippi State's going to have to do some work on breaking the press. That's how Tennessee got back into the game. And Chris Jans said it in his post-game presser. He said we're going to have to work on that. As for Tennessee, I said it in the preview. I said ADU has to work on his physicality and positioning. And Rick Barnes said it in his postgame. He said no one should be able to back us down the way they just bullied us and backed us down. I do think that some of the interior foul calls down the stretch were a little bit questionable, but hey, that's college basketball. You're going to get that on the road, right? So little bit concerning with Tennessee's lack of, inconsistency with Josiah Jordan-James and Vescovy and stuff. I would like for them to be more consistent, and so would Rick Barnes. And then for Mississippi State, now we're going to see teams pressing the heck out of them all game, right? Trying to force turnovers. So both teams with some positives and some negatives, but man, I am just beaming with how crazy these games have been.
Yeah, Max, you hit on a lot of my thoughts. I think this is one of those years. I mean, look, I don't think we really know who's got what with a lot of certainty until mid-February is when I start really making firm judgments on teams. And even then, sometimes a team is kind of running away with it, and then they'll show some cracks late February, early March, and those are the things we should pay attention to. So even then, but I mean, I think we start finding out mid-February who's in the discussion of being good. So we got a long way to go. That said, this feels like the year that somebody's great grandmother is going to win your bracket pool, if it's ever happened. Let's look at the carnage across college basketball last night for ranked teams. We have Tennessee. We had TCU beating Oklahoma. I think that one was in Fort Worth. It was. We had Butler, which is a decent team, knocking off Marquette.
At Marquette.
We had Virginia Tech beating Clemson, which was in Blacksburg. So not a shock. But I was listening to the Field of 68 this morning, and I can't remember the stat if it was across all of college basketball or if it was Power 5. But I think home teams are winning games, maybe in conference play, at a 66% clip, which was up from 61 a year ago. Is that something that falls apart later or something that's going to hold? I don't know. I mean, we just went through this whole thing of, hey, there was carnage at home over the weekend, and midweek, everybody at home holds serve. So I don't know where this is headed, but I feel like it's going to be unpredictable and it's going to be fun. Final thought here on Mississippi State, Tennessee. What do we think of the banana people getting arrested and hauled off? Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. Brandon Walker was having a lot of fun on Twitter with that. Listen, I mean, Starkville was incredible last night. That atmosphere was nuts. I think that was one of the best crowds they've ever had. It's just expect this now. From now on, buckle up, because that's how it's going to be here in SEC play moving forward.
Next up, let's see. Who was next up, Max?
Oh, gosh. A tough one is next up.
Yeah. Were we going to go?
Chris, it's on the screen.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Georgia, Arkansas.
Wow, you really forced Arkansas fans to sit here and just wait. And they thought you were probably mocking them at that point. Wow. Arkansas fans, Chris, Max all in on Tennessee losing. Chris mocking Arkansas. This is just, I'm going to sit back here and just get these two in check, okay? Because these two are out of control here. We are going to Georgia and Arkansas. Go ahead, Chris. I'll let you do the intro on this one. But
this is my lesson about multitasking.
You made Arkansas fans wait a full 10 seconds as the score is sitting on the screen.
I got nothing here. And did it ever, Max, did it ever feel like Arkansas was going to win this game?
A little bit down there. And they came out in the second half, really fighting. It's just like the previous games here with Arkansas, you need an insane individual performance. Like, Tremont Mark starts making some shots, and then every offensive possession is just Tremont Mark one ball screen, Tremont Mark isolation. There's no motion offense. Jackson Collier on Twitter is a good follow for Arkansas fans. He was asking the fans at halftime, what are your thoughts? And those comments were just brutal. I think you gotta understand here, though, that this is just not the same Georgia team as we've seen in years past. And I'm sure Blake will touch on that a little bit. But, Eric Musselman said in his postgame, we're not defending like we have the past 3 years. And if you're not doing that, you have to have the offense help, and it's not at all. So you can name off a list of things Arkansas's got to work on: ball screen defense, motion offense, all this different stuff, strength in the interior post. But I think right now you just gotta, coming out of this game, you have to tip your cap to Noah Thomasson and Justin Hill. The point guard duo that they have there is great. They found a way to win with Abdur Rahim only making 1 3. So I mean, geez, I'll watch this game back for sure. I didn't catch the whole thing, bits and pieces. Was watching Ole Miss in Florida and this one at the same time with 2 eyeballs going different ways. But Noah Thomasson's a difference maker for this team for sure. It's a different team now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about where Arkansas is at right now. I mean, it's
tough to say much right now, Blake.
Arkansas fans have watched, and not many are watching anymore. When we talk about them here, and there's just not a lot to add that we haven't already said. Like I said, it's, we made our predictions. It's just, how could I think Arkansas was going to win? They never led in the game, not a single time, right? And so it's, how could I think that they were going to come in here and beat a Georgia team that is playing as well as they have in years? I think you could make the argument, literally years. They have not played this well. And so, so I mean, I don't want to focus too much on Arkansas here, because I think this should be way more about Georgia, even though I know in the grand scheme of things, Arkansas fans are unhappy, and I get it and understand all of that. But I mean, like I said, I mean, I do. I think back to the conversation Chris and I probably had when Mike White got hired, and I'm just going to say the same thing I said then. Like, it was the perfect fit. It was just what the Georgia basketball program needed at that time. And I know we're only 2 games into conference play, but this is different. Like, this is a different feel for this program than what we've had in quite a while. I know Mark Fox had some good teams there. There was good talent, whether it's, JJ Frazier, Yonte Mayton, all those guys. But man, like, this team right now, like they've got a groove, they've got the momentum, and they're taking advantage of their opportunities. Because again, you talk about a Missouri team that's been struggling, an Arkansas team that's been struggling. Like we said, it's just the nature of college basketball, where sometimes maybe you go on the road and play a Missouri team who just manages to get the win, even though they've struggled to this point. Or maybe you play an Arkansas team who's absolutely desperate. But yet Georgia's able to, hold both of those teams off and pick up 2 great wins. I mean, I'm calling them great wins because it is like where the Georgia program has been. These are great wins to start off SEC play at 2-0. And now a huge opportunity on Saturday against Tennessee, which we'll talk about. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's just, man, it is. There's not enough good things I could say about the Georgia basketball program right now. And like you said, it's a variety of guys. The addition of Thomas, like there's so many things you could point at. And it's hard to just kind of look at it within this game, because the story of this game. I want to point this out too. It kind of ties into the first 2 games here. We all talked about the improved 3-point shooting in the SEC, right? That was the whole talk of non-conference play. Well, guess what? The SEC has settled right back in where it usually is when it comes to 3-point shooting among conferences. And right now is shooting a crisp 29.9% from 3 through the first 2 set of conference games, which is 31st out of 32 conferences. So that's about what you expect in this league. Like, we see teams, I said it, Max, you're going to see teams shoot it well in the non-con. You're going to see offenses find their rhythm. But boy, when they get in SEC play and you start playing some of these teams that have a little bit more length on the perimeter, force you to take worse shots. Like, it's going to happen. And so far, we've seen a lot of teams struggle from the perimeter, and that was kind of the case here for these 2 teams. But, yeah, Georgia with the win, 10 straight. And Arkansas, I don't know, because, I mean, their upcoming schedule, they're at Florida. You talk about 2 teams in desperation mode. At Florida on Saturday, it's about to turn into a, loser leaves town cage match here. Because somebody's going to 0-3 in the SEC and not going to be very pleased at that. So, yeah, there we are.
I watched Georgia. I don't know that it's a team with stars, certainly not superstars, but it's a team that's got 8 or 9 quality players. This feels to me like it's an NIT season. Just with the depth of the league, I think getting the NCAA tournament's going to be hard. But I mean, they've banked a lot of wins already. Okay, we can have, well, look, we just went through this whole spill of college basketball is unpredictable. Who knows? I wouldn't take it off the table, but that feels like the most likely outcome to me as we're sitting here doing this mid-January. But Blake, I watched that game last night. I remember having a vague recollection, maybe 7-8 years ago, about somebody writing something in the AJC, because we go to the SEC tournament when it's in our backyard every year, and Georgia just brings nobody. And I remember somebody writing, Georgia fans almost have a pride about how disinterested they are in basketball. I watched that place last night. Attendance was announced at, I think, nearly 8,000. And I would have liked to have seen a pan to the whole arena. Maybe they did that when I wasn't watching. But it felt like that place last night was pretty energized and into it. And if you can do that in year two at Georgia, I think you're getting some places.
Well, yeah, I don't blame Georgia fans for not, coming to the tournament over the past little while, because there's only been one SEC team since 2016 that's not made the tournament. And it was Georgia. So, I don't blame them. I mean, they have been the outlier. And again, we talked about, Vanderbilt kind of hit rock bottom a while back there. Georgia's hit rock bottom 2 years ago. We hadn't seen teams bottom out the way that those two programs did. We haven't seen that often in the SEC, like just historically. You look at teams, like there have been some bad teams, but like I don't know that we saw the depth of kind of those two. Like even
what was it?
6-26. Yeah. Like even going back to last year, like South Carolina, we thought maybe, but South Carolina won 11 games, right? They won 4 SEC games. Like LSU won 14 games last year, despite only winning 2 in the SEC. But like you're talking about a different level when you're 6-26 and 1-17 in the league. And again, we go back to some of those Vanderbilt teams that were really struggling. Obviously, the team that went 0-18 and all that. We just hadn't seen that whole lot in the SEC. I mean, maybe Missouri, like 2017, that's the year they won 8 games, I think, 2 in the SEC. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that stat is still. I did that stat a couple years ago, but I'm pretty sure it's held up since then. Is that Georgia's, the only team that hasn't made it since 2016. So that shows you the depth of the league too. By the way, that's not that long ago, and yet every team has made the tournament since then, except for Georgia. So yeah, this is this was what Mike White needed. He needed to get away from the pressure of the Florida job, reset. He's a good coach. And I think this was a better position for him after all the pressure that came with following Billy Donovan at Florida and knowing the expectations were, if you're not winning back-to-back national championships, it seems like a disappointment. And so this was perfect, and I'm glad that they're having success.
All right, Blake, you referenced the league's miserable shooting. Well, one team could shoot last night. This team shot 59% from the field, 40% from three, 85% from the free throw line. And that wasn't even the most impressive part of the game. Jamarion Sharp playing 17 minutes, blocks 9 shots, which I think was, Max, I believe you told us in text last night, I've not fact-checked this, a school record.
Yep, Ole Miss record.
My goodness. Ole Miss last night. Lord have mercy on your soul if you ran into that buzzsaw in Oxford.
That atmosphere was incredible. I mean, I think we're starting to see just like, these schools, you saw it with Georgia, and now you're seeing it with Ole Miss. You saw it with Florida in their first home game. These, opening SEC play home games, the atmospheres have just been unbelievable. I think you got to mention Jaemyn Brakefield and his stretch of, I would say an offensive tear that he's been on. And if you watched Ole Miss in those first few games, when they didn't have the transfers like the Eastern Washington, the Detroit Mercy, Sam Houston State, Brakefield did not look like he was playing confident. Looked like he was a little bit hesitant. And I was talking with Tim Thomas, who does some good stuff with Ole Miss, and we were just shocked by the confidence that Jaemyn Brakefield's playing with. It's night and day difference from how he was playing in the beginning of the season. As far as Florida is concerned, Todd Golden came out and said our defensive effort was atrocious, just atrocious. And I mean, what do you want to take away from that? They battled in the first half a little bit, but coming out in that second half, just kind of fell asleep there. I'm scratching my head on Riley Kugel's minutes. Golden was asked about his minutes, and he said, quote, "I didn't think Kugel had it tonight." So, I'm not really sure what the minutes going forward for Kugel are going to look like. If he's getting 4 minutes a game or single-digit minutes a game, that really changes the outlook of this team. You saw how important he was for keeping Florida in the game against Tennessee or against Kentucky. So, I mean, you're gonna need Riley Kugel down the stretch. But like you said, Blake, you don't want to fall to 0-3, and I don't think you can fix all the defensive errors in 3 to 4 days. But I think you can fix the effort, and playing at home with your back against the wall. I'm really looking forward to seeing this Florida team bounce back with just a better effort and fighting and wanting it, because they just didn't seem like they wanted it there in that second half.
Yeah, I mean, I said I could certainly see the hangover effect after the Kentucky game, because this was not an easy spot, because I think you just look at it, and like I mentioned, I think this was the Tennessee game was just the perfect opportunity for Chris Beard to go in and say, here you go. You guys thought you were something at 13-0. Here's what it takes. Like, you need to be able to play a game like this, like the one Tennessee played in Knoxville. And Ole Miss came back and responded. And I just think I had more confidence in Ole Miss doing that than I did Florida, for whatever reason. I think it's the proven success that Chris Beard has had. And you look back at kind of over the years, yes, there's been points like every coach where they've had losing streaks on the teams, but he seemed to do a pretty good job of kind of getting his guys back up after a loss. And, I think this was one where, whether it's, a guy setting a record for block shots, whether it's just all the contributions you're getting from these different guys. I mean, I think this was the perfect game for the point that I think Max and I may have made this summer. But we said, when we were, everybody was kind of, having their fun with us. And we were like, oh yeah, we could go all in on Ole Miss at number 3 if they have that 1 through 7 that we were so high on. We said the 1 through 7, I would feel really good if I'm Ole Miss about putting my 1 through 7. And remember, this was before, we knew maybe who was going to emerge, whether it was, different guys playing different roles. But we've kind of figured, hey, maybe you replace this guy with that guy. But 1 through 7, if you looked at the roster and they had Brandon Murray, they had Mousasi, like, hey, you could see it. And so, the Tennessee loss, based on everything we talked about, I'm going to chalk up to going on the road, life in the SEC. Maybe Florida fans feel the same way about this. I don't know that that's the case. I think Florida fans are probably a little disappointed right now, knowing that they felt like they should have beat Kentucky. You go on the road and you kind of have a performance like this where defensively, again, not a lot goes your way. And they're also a team that just doesn't force a lot of turnovers. And I think that's something where, like we've said for Missouri in the past, right? Like other teams like that, they may have weaknesses defensively, but they were able to force more turnovers and get easier shots. I don't have a lot of doubt about Florida offensively. Like, I think they're going to be fine. But the defense, still a lot to be determined there. And we'll see. Like I said, boy, you want to talk about a game that we didn't quite think would be the setup that it is on Saturday when they host Arkansas. Man, somebody's going to come out of there, kind of exhale a little bit. Somebody else is going to come out of there thinking, oh boy, like we got some serious issues, even though, these fan bases may already think that, but I don't know. I mean, again, did we chalk this up just as one of those games for Florida after a tough loss to Kentucky? Maybe, but I think the Arkansas game will tell us more than maybe this one did.
Parting thoughts while Oreo loses his mind here. I've had it on mute for a reason. I think he does.
Well, look, again, we're gonna preview all the Saturday games as usual. We've also got the mailbag coming up, so you guys can leave your comments or questions for the mailbag. Do that on Twitter though. Go to @14 Southeastern. Send us your questions. We'll have Friday's mailbag coming up, so do that. And we will talk more SEC basketball heading into the weekend games.
All I have to say is appreciate what we are witnessing right now, because it has never happened in the sport ever before. We're witnessing history, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think night in, night out in the SEC, you're going to see more interesting matchups across the conference schedule.
Yep.
And across major college basketball than we've seen in a long time. That could be a dumb take that a month from now we say, hey, that was stupid. Auburn or Tennessee or Kentucky ran away with it. If you're playing them on most nights, you didn't have a chance. Maybe that's how it pans out. But as we sit here in mid-March, doesn't feel like it's going to play out that way based on what we're seeing early in conference play, not just in the league, but across the country. All right, this has been Southeastern 14 presented by Bet Online. We'll see you again soon with SEC basketball predictions.